The views, comments, stories, and opinions shared within this podcast are my own or those of my guests, and in no way represent the views of the company or companies that I or we work for. All stories, events, and tales shared within this episode may or may not have happened in the manner in which they are told. They may or may not have even happened at all. The details have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty alike. This is Squawk Ident.
Minimum 200 above. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Retard.
You're listening to Squawk Ident, an aviation podcast dedicated to the journey and the challenges surrounding the life and career of Aviator Tony, his co-hosts, and his guests. Together, we will explore the many pathways to an aviation profession, the realities of what a professional aviator can expect in today's marketplace, and we share many stories along the way. I'm your host, Aviator Tony, an airline pilot currently flying for a legacy airline with close to 20 years on the flight line. This is episode 61 of Squawk Ident, recorded on the 2nd of November, 2020, from the Aviator Sound Studios from somewhere in Southern California. On today's show, we at Squawk Ident are very grateful to have the opportunity to speak with an aviator who has navigated some rather challenging obstacles along his journey in aviation. His story is exceptional because it tackles a topic that is often too uncomfortable for many pilots to even discuss. Perhaps because it involves a disease that is often taught to be a career ender within our industry. Today's featured guest has graciously agreed to discuss his aviation journey in an effort to express to our listeners that this disease can be managed, but only after taking that very first difficult step. To help me in navigating Flight 61 of Squawk Ident podcast is one of my fantastic co-hosts. He is a former international and professional racquetball champion, a member of the 9G Club, an A&P, an avionics tech, and an RC aircraft commander. He's also a pickleball master and a commercial drone operator. Currently, he is a 737 pilot for Legacy Airlines, the name we use here on the show as an alias to our employer, a U.S. mainline carrier. From his fortress of isolation from somewhere in Flower Mound, Texas, help me in welcoming back to the show, Mr. Rob D. Rob, how you doing?
Doing well, Tony. How you doing? It's good to be back.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good too. Been flying, which I'm grateful for. Yeah, I had a trip that ended yesterday. It was a relatively simple trip. It was one red eye from LAX to Miami with a landing around 6:20 in the morning. We were able to get to the hotel before the sun came up. And 37 hours later, we did a late night flight departing out of Miami back to Los Angeles. And we arrived at LAX at 11:35 p.m. last night. It was my leg on that day, on that flight. And we got to about 100 miles out, started listening to the ATIS, and we were watching the ATIS change like every 10 minutes. It went from 10 miles viz to 5 to 2 to 1 to 1/16th of a mile.
The ocean layer's rolling in.
The fog bank came rolling in, that marine layer, as we all know about in Los Angeles. The South Complex, the 2-5 left, which was the Cat 3 ILS that we had to perform. Obviously, the captain had to do that. So I relinquished controls before we started our final descent. And we went over the procedures and profile, and we had to execute a Cat 3 approach, auto land, basically, on the Airbus A321. And, the plane did a great job. It's not my first time doing an auto land with the captain. Done it plenty of times, both on the line and in the simulator. But man, it's so much fun. I mean, I live for this stuff, man.
Right? Yeah, that is cool.
It was cool.
That is cool. So when did you really see the runway? I mean, obviously you're monitoring the instruments going in, but when did you pick up the light or the actual runway because it's so low? Yeah,
we had the runway environment, which was the approach lights. The approach lights were in sight at about 50 feet. So right over basically almost right over the threshold, maybe a little bit before. Wow. So we had the approach lights, just the tail end of the approach lights. Then we had the red or the green runway threshold bars, and you could probably see about 500 feet to 1,000 feet down the runway. But as we progressed towards the shoreline, the fog got a little bit thicker. I mean, it wasn't too bad. We didn't have to go to like an extremely low visibility procedure, but it was fun. It was fun to see.
I bet it was rewarding too, because I mean, you kind of, that's kind of what you build up to, you know, when you're instrument training and, you know, all these hours and hours of studying and training and in simulators, and, you know, this is what it was for. And when it happens and it works out just the way it's supposed to be, I'm sure that's really rewarding.
Yeah, it was, you know, and we don't have a HUD in the Airbus. It's, you know, completely a 2 autopilot system. The airplane does a phenomenal job. It stays on center line on the rollout very well.
Cool.
So yeah, it was great.
Nice.
How about yourself? Are you flying currently, or?
Exactly the opposite. We finished out October with, I had a reserve line in October, and I only flew one day turn. And it was, gosh, I don't even remember. It was probably back on the 11th or the 12th of October. And I had vacation, and I also was on reserve for a couple days, short call, like 3 or 4 days ago. I don't even remember. That's how crazy it's been. Just, but I never got used. So just been, you know, enjoying my time here in Texas. The weather's really nice now. You know, the days are you know, in the mid 60s, and good friend of mine got a brand new boat, so we took that thing out on the Maiden the other day, and got to do a little bass fishing. And
I saw your 3D social media post there with your delicious bass.
yeah, that was. Oh, so no, that one. Okay, that one you saw was up during my vacation in Rhode Island. Oh, so yeah, that was I think it's blackfish they call it. So, but so I've been fishing a lot lately.
Man,
I like to fish.
You know, as most pilots that are relatively senior and on reserve would say, lucky.
Right. Well, it just happened to be luck of the draw. I didn't get used, and I do start a trip on Wednesday. I got a hard line for November, so about 85 hours of flying for November. So starting with every trip's a 4-day, and I just found out today I get to fly with our one of our check airmen, which is always fun. So it's gonna be good because I also have training this month, so I'm starting to study up for that.
Oh, that's good.
And what a good way to kick off the first flight after being off for a couple weeks with a check airman. So it's going to be fun and interesting. It always is. It's, you know, as we all know, it's not a big deal. But I just got notified of that today. So
yeah, that's great that we have that app that tells you, ding, ding, your next flight involves a member of management.
Yeah, sorry.
Just a heads up. Well, hopefully, you know, I'm sure it'll be fine. And that's actually, I've always found that to be a positive experience because you get to pull on the ear of a checkman. Hey, I got recurrent coming up. So there you go.
Yeah,
there
what's
goes
the gouge?
That bond. Yeah, what's the gouge?
Yeah.
What are they looking at? What are the weak points? I want to study. Next thing you know, they're like, oh,
hot topics and stuff. Yeah.
This guy's pretty sharp. So, yeah.
Yep.
Well, good. Well, now that our pre-flight is complete, let's push off the gate. Start the virtual podcast engines here and get ready to take off. Joining us today is a fantastic aviator here to discuss his journey in aviation. We will explore how his battle with addiction nearly put an end to his career, how his recovery, thanks to the HIMSS program, saved not only his career, but his life. And hopefully, someone out there listening will hear his journey and decide that maybe now is the time to take that first step. Joining us here from his home in Eagleville, Tennessee, David W. David, how the heck are you?
Hey, good, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure.
Aboard.
I said, I like your story about your Cat 3.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny about if that was that low in the 7.4, we had to get tugged off the runway. We couldn't see.
Because you're high. Yeah.
Higher than 50 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was laughing. I'd have spent the last 45 hours with a check airman, so I got the FOM and stuff banged in my head on my OE. So
That's
that made me
funny you
laugh.
say that, because it never dawned on me. When you say you picked up the runway at 50 feet, a 747 isn't going to see it. You know what I mean? I mean, they're probably doing an auto land anyway, but still, that's incredible. Yeah, neat.
You got the 3 autopilot system in the 7.4, so it can come on down to 0-0 if you have to, and it's an amazing machine. But that made me laugh when you said about we'd be sitting on the end of 2.5 left there, getting in everybody's way until a tug came out.
Because I couldn't see the ground.
I have a new appreciation for the heavy drivers out there landing at LAX at night. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's an amazing machine. But once again, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And thank you for reaching out to us. David actually reached out to the Squawk Ident podcast through our website, sent us an email explaining a little bit about his journey and his story, and mentioned that he would love to come on the show to tell his story, that hopefully, it'll help someone, at least, one person out there to get the help that they need. And we just want to say thank you for your courage to come on the show and tell us a little bit about the journey and the challenges that you've had to deal with.
Yes, sir. Well, like you said earlier, I'm from Tennessee. I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, so I'm a longtime suffering Tennessee Vols fan. I had to throw that out there. I grew up in East Tennessee, and my father had me flying airplanes when I was a kid out of Knoxville, and we flew out of downtown Island Airport in Knoxville. We moved to another little town in East Tennessee called Copper Hill, Tennessee. That is, if people remember, it's where the 1996 Olympics were for the Whitewater River rafting. It's the Ocoee River, and I grew up in that area. It's a really, small part of Tennessee. And I was one of those typical kids that rode a bicycle out to the airport. And I've always loved airplanes. My grandmother used to make me my birthday cakes with little model little plastic airplanes on it. And I was lucky enough to have some group of gentlemen that took me flying in J3s and Cessna 170s. And as long as I washed their airplane and helped them put gas in it or put the cowlings back on, they let me fly with them. And that kind of put the bug in me. And during high school, I just did that and kind of learned how to fly, in a way. They let me fly the airplanes. I got to the point I could land a J3. And then my dad stuck me in a glider when I was about 13 years old in Chilhowie, Tennessee. Wow. And that was it, man. That was cool. That's pure flying. I still fly gliders today.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, for a young person out there that wants to get into aviation, we always hear that this pathway, all right, you got to go and get your private and get this and get that. And there's a very set, there's rails that you have to follow in order to get this profession off the ground. But that's not necessarily true. There's so many other options out there. You've mentioned tailwheel aircraft, you've mentioned gliders, and your path kind of took you towards the glider route, which I've always, most of my training was in Arizona, and in southern Arizona, there's some great glider ports out there and opportunities for thermals. And
Australia.
I've always found that, Australia airport, I've always found it so interesting, but also kind of intimidating for myself. How did you find it as a 13-year-old flying gliders around? What was that like?
I didn't want to get out. I wanted to stay in it. I mean, it was, back then you really didn't understand the magic of it, right? There's no motor and you're flying around. You didn't understand the lift, the drag ratios. You didn't understand what a thermal was or ridge soaring. You just knew that you got in this machine and they said, grab the stick, you fly us around, and you could do it. It was just, amazing, and it's been kind of like that for me. They said, do it. And I did it. And I was like, I love it. This is great. This is wonderful. But you're right. The pathways to aviation are, it's not just go to college, go into a professional aviation program. My degree is in aerospace administration. So I could have a fallback if God forbid I didn't have a medical anymore or whatever. So, I was lucky enough to have a really unique background in flying. I'm checked out in over 110 different types of airplanes.
Hello.
You know, and that includes gliders.
Wow.
I guess aircraft, right?
Yeah.
And I've got the opportunity to fly some really cool stuff, man. And yeah, you can do it anyway. I towed gliders, I towed banners. I'm an instructor, but I get back on the way is that when I was in East Tennessee, I did that when I went to college. I went to college at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University. And as I progressed through college, I got my CFIs and I started instructing and did a lot of tailwheel stuff, did some aerobatics instruction, and did, I got to the point at the end of my instructing career that I was just doing CFIs, because I had lost patience for privates, and I'll readily admit that I lost patience.
You're not alone.
So once that then I started flying for a company in Nashville that did modifications on Navajos, and got to fly Navajos and build my multi-time, and then moved on to 135 charter in Learjets, and it spent a 135 charter, did a few different companies. I went corporate for about a year and a half out of Lunken Field up in Cincinnati. Okay. That's my first time I moved north of the Mason-Dixon line, and that did not work out well. They didn't have sweet tea up there, so I didn't really know what to do with myself.
We have sugar packets, though.
It's not the same.
It's not the same thing, guys. It's not the same.
Nope.
But that was another. I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, but your careers will probably have the same thing. That you have a groups of people along your career path that really mold you into who you are.
Oh, absolutely.
Like one of my CFIs, who's still a wonderful friend of mine. I'll say his name because he didn't. His name's Skip Stewart. He flies for a Legacy Cargo also. He's a professional airshow pilot now. You should look him up. His airshow is amazing. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a plug, but he's a good friend of mine.
Not at all.
That's cool.
And he taught me a lot. And then the guys in Cincinnati, my boss and chief pilot up there were amazing. And they took a cargo kid. I was a freight dog in the Falcon 20s and the Learjets, and turned me into a polished corporate pilot. And I can never thank them enough. Those guys are an amazing group of guys up there. And then when that job finished up, I went to the fractional 135 in 2000, and I was there for 19 years.
Is that over in Madison, Texas? Is that where that was?
No, sir. The 135 freight was in Addison, Texas. The other one is in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
It's northern Ohio. So
okay,
for the larger fractional.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for 19 years, and I got to fly. I flew the Hawkers, the Beachjet, the Citations, the what do they call that thing? The Nextant Beachjet, the Beachjet with the new engines in it, and then I flew the Phenom 300 for them. So, and then ended up at this Legacy cargo carrier, flying the biggest airplane of. It's funny. I was talking to my wife the other day. Is that the 747's APU is a TFE 731 Garrett, which is the same motor that powers Hawkers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an amazing machine.
So,
can we say what airplane you're currently flying? Is that?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, the 747.
Yeah.
400, the dash. I fly the 400, the Dash 8, and the LCF. The LCF is the big one with the big modified fuselage.
Mm-hmm.
Carry the Boeing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The Boeing stuff.
Yeah.
So, and along the way, when I was living here, I got out of CFI for a long time, and then I came back to Tennessee from Cincinnati, and a good friend of mine who used to run the MU2 school here in Smyrna, Tennessee. He started the flight school, and he had a Citabria. And he called me up and asked me if I'd help him start the flight school and flight instruct for him. So I got back into CFI, beginning of CFI, and that was one of the best decisions I ever made because I had something to give back. I had more to give back now. If that makes sense, is that I went out and flew and learned something and came back, and now I can teach people instead of being a 250-hour CFI, I was a 3,000-hour pilot.
Yeah.
That taught people how to fly.
Nice.
And that flight school turned into a great success. We had the katanas. You remember those DA-20s, DA-40 katanas?
That, yeah.
You got some of those?
Yeah.
And of course, we had the arrows, and we had the 172s, and we had a bunch of different tailwheel airplanes that went from Citabrias to Super Decathlons to PA-18 Super Cubs. And so I spent a lot of time as much time as I could into tailwheels. So that's my thing. That's what I like to do. And then another good friend of mine who collects airplanes has got some cool airplanes. I got to fly Wacos and
wow.
We had some Pitts, and he has some really cool airplanes. Stearman's T6s, all kinds of things I've gotten to fly in. So it's been an amazing time. I'd never give it up. But,
it's amazing to hear all this experience that you've amassed throughout your journey and all the different places you've been able to navigate and get in different types of airplanes. I mean, you said over 100 different types of airplanes that you've commanded. That's something that's
amazing.
We aviators out here on the line, most of us only dream about. And to finally get to meet somebody that has that experience. And like you said, earlier you kind of alluded to the fact that we are a collection of who our journeys have allowed us to meet along the way. We stand on the shoulders of all those aviators that helped us get up over this wall to learn aviation, to really dive into how to be a professional aviator, how to make every single moment that you've experienced valuable. And man, your base in knowledge is just so valuable. And the fact that you've given that back and you're now here you are really, you said something earlier that amazed me. You said, I went from flying relatively light Learjets to flying 747s. That's a pretty big jump. How did that transition happen for you? Was that a challenge?
Going from a non-airline environment to a airline environment, the 121 environment, which I had never been a part of. So I had 19 years, but thinking back more than that, about 20-something, 22, 23 years of flying that I had to scrub. Does that make sense of the briefings and the different ways to do the checklists? And I was lucky enough to have a sim partner from that knew that he called it the dance. That when you get the paperwork and how do you set the box up and how you dance through the startup program, how you dance through the pre-flight, and he explained it to me very, very well. And once I got that understanding of how the 121 world works, I got it, because that translated from, the pre-flight to get the engine started to taxi to take off to everything. And that really came together for me.
Yeah.
So I was having a hard time. I was really having a hard time. I remember, John was embarrassed, but I remember sitting in there doing it at the, what is it called? With the computer, the big computer screens where you get in there and you can hit the buttons on the computer screens.
They used to be the Paper Tiger, but now they're all fancy and touch screen.
Yeah, it's off. It's like the FSBs,
the procedures trainer FSB. And stuff like that.
Yeah. And I couldn't even read a checklist, man. I couldn't read their checklist. If it was check, what we used to say is checked, they had is set. I could not.
Yeah. And
the second session, the instructor looked at me and said, "Man, you are nowhere near where you need to be." Oh. And I had never had an instructor tell me that before. I'm like, holy moly, this is not good.
We've all been there at one point or another in our journeys. I totally get you because I kind of went through the same thing. I'm sure Rob has too, especially when you're getting on with a mainline carrier. You want to put your best foot forward. Here you are. You study the best you can. They don't spoon feed you this information. They told us you need to show up ready for your triggers and your flows. And I was like, say what?
Yeah.
And I
was going to make fun of the planes that we fly. You know, you fly the Airbus. I flew the 175, and David, you said you flew the Phenom. I mean, that's probably the easiest checklist of them all. You know, because all you have to respond with is auto,
yeah,
auto. You get in now. Does the Phenom have automatic anti-icing, as like the other Embraers do out on the 121
ice detection and auto?
Yeah, you just turn it on and it comes on whenever it needs it.
Yeah, it just automatically.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Why couldn't they make every airplane like that? You know,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, the Phenom 300 though, it turned off the anti-ice on the wings at 29,000 feet.
Turn it off because you didn't need it anymore.
Yeah, because there's no ice above 29,000 feet.
Right, and you're going fast. Yeah.
So
it's all crystalline.
But I was, I got to the point of, can I do this anymore? Because that was my first real big training event after I came back and got my medical back from going through the HIMSS program, to where I really had to sit back and think, I had a couple of things where I can I do this? Because during all my other trainings, I was drinking.
Yeah.
And not heavily, all my other type ratings, I was a pretty heavy drinker when I got my Phenom type rating, but not to the point. Well, I'd be lying to you if I said it was not a problem. It was an issue, but I was able to control. Thought I was able to control it.
You were what they would call functioning.
No, I hate that term.
Do you? What?
Yeah, because
what would you call it?
Only an alcoholic would come up with calling it a functioning alcoholic.
Okay.
Because there's nothing functional about your life. If you go to work hungover and intoxicated, does that sound like a functional individual to you?
I would say no. Yeah, you're under the effects of the alcohol. So.
No, I never drank before I flew. Okay, like you saw in the movies, to where some people are drinking, they're taking a shot of vodka before they get on the airplane. I never did that, but I know I woke up hungover, and hungover's under the influence. It's 0.00. Was it 0.04? I believe. Yeah. For the FAA. In some countries, it's 0.02. But I never drank before I went flying. But I know, I know if I probably would have blown over a 0.04, probably.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, on multiple occasions.
Let's talk about this, because this is, it's very interesting to hear your perspective, having lived it. You had this amazing career, and you're continuing to have this amazing journey that's going to continue on, hopefully, for a lifetime. And to hear this, all of us are like, wow, look at all this experience and all these different types of airplanes and all this opportunity that you have had so far. And then you say something like, well, when I came back from the HIMSS program, and I know I'm going to say, well, whoa, what happened? How did it get to that? How did you even come back? Because most people that maybe don't know about the program don't really think that it's a thing, because I know a lot of people, not aviators, because most aviators have heard of something or have known someone that have gone through the program, but especially a lot of the flying public passengers out there, they have no idea what's going on. What do you mean? You can't be a real person. You're a pilot. You have to be, cookie cutter plastic, you have to be freaking Barbie's Ken, the cutout to fit in the uniform and fly an airplane. And you mean you actually have to go through these programs? So let's talk about how this whole thing started for you. When did you actually start drinking, if I could ask that? And how did that progress to the point where you ended up going to the program?
As I've learned more about alcoholism and addiction over the last few years, I can look back on my life and pick up on alcoholic tendencies from back to 16, 17 years old when I was in high school, drinking with my friends. Either by the amounts of alcohol I would drink at one sitting, are the duration of the drinking. If we were out on from a Friday to a Sunday camping trip, or mom and dad went away and we were, swiping the liquor from the cabinets and doing the things that kids typically do, into college of fraternity life. And we all know about fraternity life if you were in fraternities or been to fraternity parties. It's all about drinking, and as much as you can drink and as long as you can, and that back then it was never really an issue. I could drink and I could get up and do my thing. I was a lot younger then too.
Yeah.
And then as I got into professional life and got with my first marriage, it ebbed and flowed with my drinking. And looking back on it now, I was an alcoholic then, back, in 99, 98, with the definition of alcoholism.
And what is that? I mean, to say that, well, I was an alcoholic then, what does that mean? I don't try to explain it to me, because I'm just ignorant in the fact that I know the stigma. I know, someone that drinks a lot and maybe drinks so much to the point where they're never sober, but I don't really understand the nuances of what defines an alcoholic. Well,
it's basically if you can't stop drinking when you want to stop drinking, it's like, imagine that you want to stop drinking a Diet Coke every day, but you can't. No matter what you do, you can't stop drinking that Diet Coke. That your life evolves around drinking. Back then it was okay. I'll stop. I won't drink during the week. I'll wait for the weekend, and I'll drink all weekend. Just to get the wife to get off my back. Or when we go out to a bachelor party, I remember going to 2 bachelor parties with my all my fraternity brothers, and I drank from the moment I left the house to the moment they dropped me off in the driveway. Wow. To the point I woke up in the hotel room in the shower, fully clothed, that they put me in, and turned the shower on and left me there. Things that you laughed about a year later. I remember when he did that. Or remember when you did this, and all our friends together. It started with those, but then I kept telling myself, you can control it. And I thought I could. So alcoholism gets to the point to where it fools you. It's a baffling disease.
At that point that you're talking about then in your life, did you think it was a problem then? Did it even cross your mind at all?
No, because I could stop. I could not get up. I could get up and not drink the next day. I could not drink for a week. And I could stop, and I could go in there and say, okay, well, I don't want to drink tonight because I got a check ride tomorrow. Or, I just wouldn't do it. I remember seeing guys I flew with that would get the minis off the airplane. In the corporate world, you can get them,
sure.
And they'd drink 3 or 4 of them before they come to dinner. And I'd be like, man, this is crazy. I drink 2 or 3 beers, and it's a progression. And, as we go on with my story, I'll kind of lead up to how the progression works, because it went from that drinking, like you said, I didn't think it was a problem. My first wife thought it was, but I didn't listen to her at all. I didn't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
But I never got a DUI. I never got a domestic with alcohol. I got in a big bar fight in Nantucket once, while I was at work.
Oh.
Drunk. And I didn't start it, though. I know that for a fact, because the police report has me listed as victim. So that was not me.
So at this point in your life, you could stop for periods of time, but always looking forward to the next opportunity to be able to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right. And how did that progress? At this point, where were you? Were you flying corporate already at this point?
At this point, I was flying. I was already done with the corporate. I was back in Tennessee from Cincinnati, working for the fractional 135 fractional operation. Mm-hmm. And back then we had dedicated airplanes, right? I was assigned a jet. And if that jet was down for maintenance, I was also down for maintenance with it.
Oh, okay.
And that turned into, well, we had certain bars at maintenance bases that we would go to. And all the pilots that were there would go there, and we would drink heavily, to the point of, pushing guys back in shopping carts to the hotel, things like that. It was, it was a big party. But that's about the time, I would say 2005, something where maybe 4, where it started turning into, I looked forward to the morning drink when I didn't have to go fly.
Mm-hmm.
I would look, hey, I don't have to do anything today. I can get up and I can have a beer. It's 9 o'clock. Hey, I got to start grilling out for the 12 o'clock game on Saturday. I'll start grilling out at 9 o'clock and start drinking beer at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because I'm grilling. See how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah. Always 5:30 somewhere kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Any opportunity.
I'm grilling, so I can drink beer and nobody get mad at me. Right.
Yeah.
Nobody,
Right.
or I'm going to this party, or we're going camping, and it started where everything evolved around alcohol. And then, it turned into, I got in trouble. I did some stupid stuff, with other women, and I was not faithful to my first wife. And because alcohol was giving me, was involved in a lot of those stupid decisions that I was making with other women on the road, not at home. And
right.
it just turned into where it was part of my life for almost everything. And as it went on in time, we're getting closer and closer that I got divorced from my first wife, and then I was free of the marriage. So that put me into a totally free mode. I got my own house. I lived by myself, could do whatever I wanted. And that turned into a very bad combination of David by himself with no checks and balances at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Living down the road from a bar that I lived in,
Yeah. The opportunity was there, and there was, like you said, no check and balance to stop you. No one saying, hey.
Nobody to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
Right. And then getting to the depression, the loneliness, and trying to fill this void in my soul that couldn't be filled by any accomplishment at work or anything else, of just being utterly alone, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And that I felt comfort being at the bar with these guys, with people I thought were my friends, and shooting pool and playing poker. I met my current wife at one of these bars, and we drank together. She's a wonderful woman. Just like my first wife was a wonderful woman. But my current wife, she had a young son, and he was old enough where he could be by himself. So she kind of missed some of her early 20s, raising her son.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got divorced, so now we were kind of free. So we partied our butts off together. We had it didn't really help my situation. As I slowly progressed down the road of alcoholism, of getting worse.
So how old were you at this time now?
Oh, back in that day, I'm 48 now. I was about 37, 36.
Okay.
I would say when it really, really started getting bad. So I was 35.
Yeah.
And it started getting even worse. I mean, up to the point of drinking almost every day. Not when I had to go do something. When I go home and fly, or go fly with a student at home. But it was the first thing I did when I got home.
Yeah.
And then my wife got pregnant with twins, and we lost one of the twins at birth.
I'm so sorry.
At 5 years ago.
That's tough.
The girl survived. And her brother passed away, but she was a micro preemie.
Oh.
She was born at 1 pound,
wow,
10 ounces. At 20, she was born at 23 weeks.
She's a fighter.
She spent 5 months, and then she's great now. She's perfect now. But I went into total just meltdown mode after that, and it was
sure
to the point where it was getting to the point where
that's tough.
I got to the point as I went through, after that happened to me, I went through a period where I thought I needed to take some time off of work. So I went to a therapist, and talk to him about my feelings and lie to the therapist. He goes, "How much do you drink?" I said, "I only drink a couple a day,"
Sure,
which is wrong, because at this point in time, I was up to a case of beer a day and a half a bottle of vodka.
Wow.
At home.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes a full bottle of vodka a day.
And
wow.
What led to that? Was it a feeling of you have all this stress that you're trying to manage in your life, so much depression to deal with, which on your best day would be a challenge, let alone when you've had a long history of drinking.
Right.
And as you're mentioning, like, that kind of opened the floodgates to, now I'm going to take some time off work and regroup, and I'm going to now I have all the opportunity to start drinking heavily. But to drink a half a bottle or a full bottle of vodka and a case of beer, how do you just not pass out? And how do you function? And how does that make it that, is it a numbness, is it?
Yes, exactly. It's a numbness. And there's that word again, function, right? Function and functional. I was not functional. I could get up and cook breakfast for the kids in the morning, but I never went to sleep.
So that's really the biggest fallacy that we've heard here for those that have not been through this program or not experienced it, to use the word function or functional and alcohol or alcoholism in the same sentence. Really, it's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is. Some of the healthcare professionals out there may disagree with me, but I look back on my time as an active alcoholic at my worst. My life was totally non-functional. My sole purpose in life was to make money so I could buy something to drink.
Wow.
It had gotten to the point where I was trying to allude to a little bit earlier, as it went on after that traumatic event with my child, and my drinking I took that time off work. I was looking for an excuse for somebody to tell me why I felt this way, why I felt so depressed, or why I felt so alone. And when I wasn't alone. I've still got my family. I got my friends, and why I felt alone in a group of people, or why my friends were treating me differently. Why the gentleman that has all those cool airplanes that I flew didn't want me to come back to the hangar anymore. I didn't understand why. In my brain, it was, well, he's got bad judgment. He doesn't understand my talents that I bring to this hangar, what I can do for him and fly his airplanes and help keep them maintained and flying and taking them to air shows. How dare he tell me I can't fly his airplanes anymore?
Did that create?
That's how an alcoholic thinks.
Did that create some kind of like an aggressive mentality towards those people that are around you? That
No, it didn't. There's no aggressive. When they said that, I just left the hangar, and I thought, well, great. I don't have to go back to that hangar anymore. I can stay at home and do what I want. Here's the thing one of the things that you would think would make somebody open their eyes is that my son, he's 12 now. When he was 10 years old, 9.5, he was over here for his weekend with me, and he said, "Daddy, I don't like you when you're drunk. I don't want to come back here anymore."
Oh.
And I said, "Okay, call your mom." And his mom came and got him, and he left. And I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was like, great. I don't have to watch that kid. I can drink some more.
Oh,
gotcha.
It is. And, he said he'd come over if I quit drinking. I said, nah, don't worry about it.
The drinking was more important to your mind, to your, as they call the middle mind, or that part of your brain that says, this is me. This is who I am.
It's like, well, okay, I don't have to do it. I was extremely sad about it. I was extremely upset about it. But the alcohol said, well, you know what? You can't get it back. You might as well keep drinking.
Yeah.
That's what the disease said to me. You might as well keep drinking. And I did. And I kept drinking. And what got me to the point to where it's a sequence of events. is that with the last job, I had a check ride, just the 6 months check. We did ours in the sim. We did one with a check airman, and then we did one with in the sim. And I was paired up with a gentleman who was also a drinker, and we stayed at the hotel at the I call the Homeboy Suites there in Dallas, Texas. And the Homeboy Suites they got free drinks from 5 to 7 every day, Monday through Thursday. And that was our warm up. 2 hours of drinking, then dinner, and then because we didn't have to study for recurrent back then, man. We were in the airplane for so long, you just did it, right? Yeah. Well, I went to the sim the next morning, hammered. All right, I made him drive. I couldn't drive. I was so hungover and so drunk I couldn't drive. I went into that check ride. We did it back then with the oral first, and then to get into sim.
Yeah.
I passed that check ride into oral with flying colors, like it was nothing. Now, think about what that did to my alcoholic brain.
Oh boy!
It's another step. See, you were so bad you shouldn't even been walked out of the room, but you still did it. You still went out there and flew a perfect check ride.
Yeah.
The instructor told me, because that's one of the best check rides I've ever seen.
Oh boy!
So I said, "Oh no," and we drove back. We were done at noon. Guess where we went?
Go celebrate.
Right to the bar. Yeah.
Yeah. And so fast forward about a week and a half, I went back to work. I met up with a friend of mine in a hotel in New York. We drank all night. The next morning, I wake up like I'm calling sick. That's what I said to myself. I'm going to call sick. And something in my head said, "No, man, just get up and take a shower. You'll be okay." So I got up and took a shower. I got out of the shower, man. I feel like crap. No, man, tell you what, why don't you go ahead and shave and brush your teeth, pop in a mint, see how you feel. So I shaved. I did all that. And no, I think I should just call sick. And then it said again, "Hey, why don't you put your uniform on? You'll be okay. You've done this 1,000,000 times." So I put my uniform on, got my stuff, walked out of the door, walked down, got into the elevator, went downstairs to the lobby. As I was walking out of the elevator, I tripped over the stairs and I tripped over nothing in the elevators and almost fell down like a drunk because I was drunk. Wow. I turned around, got back in the elevator, called sick, scared to death that somebody had seen me because that lobby was full of pilots. So I went and hid in my room for about 2 hours. And what any alcoholic does, I went and found the bar. And I sat there all day. Yeah. And then I came home petrified that somebody had seen me. I was going to get caught. And I had the one thing that was missing from my life showed up. God showed up for me. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm either going to kill myself because I was to the point of I was suicidal. You know, I was thinking about it. So you're suicidal if you even think about it. Mm-hmm. And I can't do this anymore. And I had a good friend of mine that had went to the HIMSS program at the fractional, and he was working for a legacy carrier now. And he had been talking to me for about 1.5 years about going to get help. He knew I needed help. He's an alcoholic. I couldn't bullshit. I couldn't get anything over on him.
Yeah.
And I called him up and sat in my bathroom one night and said, I can't do this anymore, Michael. I need help. He goes, great. Stay on the line. I call him. He goes, great. I'll call you back in 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, he had me a bed in a rehab center in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Thank God for him.
Friend.
Yeah, because he's really in touch with the HIMSS program. And so my wife and I jumped in the car. I can laugh about this now, but I had a 9-pack of pints, those pints in the aluminum cans.
Yeah.
And I had a half a bottle of vodka, and I took it with me and drank it on the way to Knoxville.
One last hurrah.
We're going to do this. Might as well go out swinging.
That's it.
Go down swinging.
my last beer, my last beer was sitting in our truck. My wife is sitting over there outside smoking a cigarette with the attendee that was going to check me in, waiting on me to finish my beers. And that was my last beer. So as I walked into rehab, and was there for 30 days, but
wow. Yeah.
That's how the drinking went for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one story that's my story. That's how I just couldn't do it. And
and
I mentioned God because that's what.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And the rehab, the fact that you mentioned, you said, well, I found God and that was it. And I just said, that's it. I need help. And you reached out to the right person, thank goodness for that.
Well, let's it's not really, I didn't really find God because I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking for God. Is that I had nowhere else. I was just standing there totally lost, totally miserable, totally, didn't know what to do. And I felt the presence of something, right?
Yeah.
And some people, God is not their thing. That's fine. It was something other than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And but he is a big part of my recovery now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was just a nudge, the nudge to get me going there. So, and it was amazing though. It was an amazing feeling. Even that, I can still remember the whole thing of standing there. So when I said, I need help, it's just like a lot of things just melted away immediately.
Is that almost like, and I've heard people say this before, is that at that point, when you admit that you need the help, does it feel like just tons of weight are now lifted from your shoulders because you've admitted? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, well, you don't have to live the lie anymore.
Yeah, lie.
You don't have to lie to yourself. You don't have to lie. I never had to lie to my wife or my parents or my friends. They all knew I was a drinker.
Yeah.
Right, but it's the fact of lying to myself that I had this, that I could control this. The fact that I am completely and totally 100% incapable of controlling my alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to alcohol because once I have one, I want it all.
Yeah.
Because that's my problem is most companies have the employee assistance program. You remember that you can call
EAP, sure.
EAP, right? Yeah. Well, I called the EAP 5 times. And each time they told me that I might be an alcoholic. And I kept saying, oh, your guys are full of crap. And the one time the AAP was right, this older lady, really sweet woman, said, David, she goes, I want you to do this. I want you to get 8 minis out of the airplane. So I told her all about where I got my liquor on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't get all on the road from the airplane. I bought a lot of it myself too, but
there was a free opportunity right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it said, I want you to drink 5 of them and leave 3 of them in your bag tonight and call me back when you leave them in there. Well, I tried that 4 times. And I always drink all 8 of them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You couldn't stop.
Yeah. Right. But the thing, that's one thing I would stress with the employee assistance program. The people you talk to there, they don't know anything about the HIMSS program.
Okay.
And they can steer you down the wrong path. And they're trying to do good. They're not bad people. I'm not talking down about the AP program whatsoever. It's that they're not HIMSS trained. And they really could lead you down the wrong path. That's why the HIMSS program is there and why the union's there.
So let's talk a little bit about the HIMSS program. We've mentioned it before on the show. We've had a HIMSS director on the show. If you go back and listen, as an episode called "A Journey of Giving Back," wonderful episode. I learned a lot at that interview about HIMSS, the Human Intervention Motivation Study. It's specifically for commercial pilots and coordinates the identification, the treatment, and the return to the cockpit for impaired aviators. At what point did you migrate to be involved with that? Was it through the rehab process when you checked yourself in and then you you knew you had to, or was your friend who helped you along this process the one that guided you, or did you just know?
Well, my buddy, my friend that guided me through the process, since the fractional company didn't have a HIMSS program that was written down or anything, it was just kind of word of mouth. So he knew which facilities the FAA would use, and they kind of, they have a certain amount of them around the country that understand and have a HIMSS director at the facility for the pilots. Where I went, a lot of airlines send their people there. There are a lot of legacy guys there, a lot of regional guys there, a lot of a lot of pilots were there. I mean,
yeah,
from all aspects, from cargo to legacy, to PAX. So, but once you get there, they know you're a HIMSS pilot, and you are immediately wrapped up in their blanket, right? Of I want to say almost protection, to make sure that you get everything you need as a pilot to satisfy what the FAA wants to see in your recovery program.
I see. Yeah.
The 30 days. You have to spend 30 days there. And then it has to have a certain aspect. It has to have some computer testing that you have to do. Get your brain so you can practice these computer tests, these cognitive tests that you have to do later on down the road in the process. And they break down the process for you. Because as pilots, we want to know what the checklist is. Mm-hmm. I have a problem. Okay, I have a drinking problem. I have admitted it now. Show me the checklist so I can get back in the cockpit. That's exactly what every pilot says. So, and the questions are always, well, when can I get back in the cockpit?
Yeah.
That question comes about 10 minutes into the process, right?
Yeah.
Because
that's the reason why you're there, is to get back in the cockpit.
No, it's not. No, it's not there.
Oh, okay.
That is the thing that's the farthest, should be the farthest from your mind, but it's not.
You're there
you don't learn that till later.
You're in the program because you've admitted that you have a problem. You're looking for help. You want to get sober so that you can have a life and you can get back to, as we were talking about earlier, getting back to functioning, so that you can have the privilege of being an aviator and possibly get your licenses and your medical back so that you can get back in the cockpit. But you're doing it for you.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. You look. You want to come back and be a functional, normal person, right? That's an alcoholic, right? I'm a functional alcoholic right now. Okay, right now I'm a functional alcoholic.
I get it.
Okay,
yep.
I am an alcoholic that doesn't drink. All right, that understands my limitations when it comes to drinking, which is I can't.
Gotcha.
But once you get into the program, like what you asked a few minutes ago, is you start slowly understanding that you're not there to learn to fly airplanes again, or to get the opportunity to do it. You're there to make sure you don't die. As simple as that you don't kill yourself by drinking too much.
Yeah.
Because nobody shows up to rehab on a good streak. You're not having a good day when you show up to rehab.
Right.
Because it's the term that livers, the lovers, lawyers, and employers get you into rehab most of the time, right?
Livers,
a guy will get a DUI.
Lawyers,
livers, lovers, lawyers, and employers.
Wow.
Yeah, somebody gets a domestic. They get in a fight with their wife and they hit her in the face. He gets arrested. Yeah. And he's drunk, so he gets charged with a PD, and he blows a 0.0 whatever, 0.10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the FAA is going to want to know about that.
Sure.
Yeah. God forbid a DOT failure, which involves not only your loss of your medical is gone, but now your licenses are gone. Mm-hmm. That turns into a whole nother fiasco. And then if you want to add on to this, think about legacy crews that fly overseas and then have to go back to that country they were busted in and do a year in prison, and then come back here and start the HIMSS program.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
I had multiple meetings with some guys at another treatment facility after I was out that happened to them. They had to go back and serve time because they were arrested in a foreign country for being intoxicated showing up at the gate.
Yeah, and foreign countries take it extremely serious, and I've read a few
they
books
do,
about
yes.
it. It's you think you have it bad here. Oh, I may have to lose my medical or my license and take my ratings over again and go through a program. But
Right.
you go into a foreign country and it's more stringent, usually twice as more stringent than we are, and they don't joke around. You got to do a year in an international facility.
You do a year in a Turkish prison.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Oh my
you
God!
will see a grown man naked.
That's one time.
Bing.
Yeah.
Well done.
Stick around. We'll have more about David's amazing journey right after the break. So how does the program work? Once you're in the program, are you in it for life?
No, that's a misconception with that. So what happens is when you go through rehab, you'll come out of rehab with the basic tools and understanding of your disease. And it's a disease, no matter what anybody says, it's a disease.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have a checklist. Now you say, okay, go home, and you have to do what they call 90 and 90. You have to do 90 meetings in the rooms in 90 days. So for 90 days straight, and you have to document it. You'll be given a list of the HIMSS AMEs. There's just a few scattered about the country are HIMSS AMEs that are trained for the FAA to be administrators of the HIMSS program for the FAA. You'll meet up with him, and you'll start an aftercare. You'll go to an aftercare group, which is outside of the rooms, but part of your recovery. And mine consists of a group of guys and gals that are pilots, lawyers, doctors, nurses, with alcoholism and addiction to pills and everything you can think of,
Mm-hmm.
And that's a requirement. You do those at least once a month. I go as many as I can. I really enjoy my aftercare group. My sponsor is in my aftercare group. And then when you go meet with your HIMSS AME, he'll lay out what he wants to see from you when it comes to reports that you have to get from your sponsor. You have to get a report from a peer monitor later on, but that comes later. And then he'll set you up with a psychiatrist and a psychologist you have to go see. Once he determines that you're ready to go see the psychiatrist, you have to do an evaluation. And they evaluate you, about a 2-hour process of sitting down with a psychiatrist. And then you get scheduled for your COG test, the cognitive testing, which is an all-day event of some of the craziest tests you've ever thought of.
Really?
Really?
I'll give you an example. One of the tests is a math test. I don't have the name of it right in front of me, but they read you a series of numbers, and you have to remember them and add them up, and then continue to remember them and add them up. You have to get on the computer screens and do 2 or 3 things at the same time on a computer screen, and a lot of memory testing and a lot of blocks that have different colors on them. You got to make certain shapes. It takes all day. You walk out of there thinking you'll never fly again because you just feel like a moron. I mean, you really do. I had to go back and take it again because I didn't get high enough score the first time, which is a common thing. I thought I was done when he told me to come back, and he's like, "No, it's normal. Don't worry about it." He said, "Come back in 2 months," and I came back in 2 months and passed it with no problem. So once you get those hoops done and you talk to your psychiatrist again, and you go to your AME, and he actually issues you a medical that he doesn't sign. So you have the cog test results. You have your psychiatrist review. You have your all your paperwork from your rehab center. You have your aftercare administrators, all his reports to you about you, all put in this one little bow, and they send it off to the FAA. And it goes to Washington, D.C. They review it and approve it. Then it goes to Oklahoma City. They review it and approve it. And then you would think that you would have a marching band and, walk down the street with your medical held high on a big flagpole and say, come out here and get it, congratulations. Well, it shows up in the mail unannounced, just out of the blue one day. And then bam, you got your medical back. Wow. You're expecting something else, but that's what you get.
Sounds like a relatively lengthy process.
Yeah, it can take between 8 months, 9 months to 16, 17 months.
Oh, okay.
It depends. It all depends on the person and their story. If let's say somebody has a pending litigation for something they did where they were drinking and they had to go to jail, or they have a court date, the FAA won't even start the review process to those court date. That's finished. It's over. So it all depends on your situation, but that shouldn't deter anybody from the fact is that it sounds like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work, and it is a huge challenge to get the FAA to give you back your medical. It's a huge challenge. But I'll tell you this, if I had never got my medical back, but I was sitting here sober right now, it'd be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I would be dead. I'd be dead, or I'd be alone somewhere in a small, cheap apartment on welfare, drinking my life away.
Yeah.
Because flying is 100% secondary to my sobriety. It's 100% secondary because I spent too many years flying around this wonderful country just waiting to land so I could go drink somewhere. And not wanting to go fly, not want to be with my family and friends, or if I did go with my family and friends, I was intoxicated.
Yeah.
And that's back to this functional word. I was not functional. I was totally abnormal.
Yeah.
As a person.
And that's, I think, a big fear for maybe somebody who is struggling with addiction, or think that they don't have a problem because, like you mentioned, maybe they're at that point in their life where they feel they can stop for 5-6 days when they're working, flying, and trying to get stuff done. And then as soon as they're not, they're taking that opportunity to open a bottle of beer or a bottle of booze or something, or drugs, or whatever their addiction is. And I think there's a stigma against getting help because they feel like, well, if I admit I have a problem, I may not ever fly again, and I want to protect
exactly.
That. And so, It's good to hear that you went through the program. I know there's example after example of people that have successfully gone through the program and they can fly again. And not only did you get your first class medical back, you actually progressed into a new job. And you went through the program and then got into Legacy Cargo.
Right. Yes. That was not the plan at first. My plan was to go back to the fractional, where I'd been there. I was comfortable. I was, I knew that job like the back of my hand, and I was very good at it. Mm-hmm. But the last 3 or 4 years there, I was a terrible employee. I was a terrible employee. I was doing just enough. And, because when I got my medical back, I sent them an email. I said, hey, I got it back. I thought they would be all happy because I had actually went up and talked to them during the process about a HIMSS program, starting a HIMSS program there. And when I sent them the email, I got an email back that I was under investigation for just some things they thought I did wrong. And we had lost our union up there also too. They had voted the union out. And so I didn't have any. So basically they said, we're glad you got your medical back and we're glad you're healthy, but we don't want you to come back. And I was like, well, hell, okay. That just blows my plan out of the water, and so now I'm fresh medical, still pretty fresh in recovery. If you think about it, only, not even a year yet of being sober.
I was going to say that was probably tough to take right off the bat coming out of the program.
It was a kick in the pants. I was upset,
sure.
And I was bound and determined not to drink over it.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth drinking over.
Yeah.
So I just buckled down and got a new job, and did the best I could do,
Yeah.
And I don't blame them for that because they treated me really well, And I don't blame them. And if I was on the manager side, I'd probably I'd have fired me too.
Yeah.
Because of the way I was acting, the way I was. So
that's always a good question for an employee when they're kind of a troublemaker. You kind of ask them, hey, so how do you think you did? If you were rating yourself, that's always an honest question and see how they answer it, but anyway, yeah, that's a tough position to be in.
Yeah, it is. And I understand. And they actually did me a wonderful favor, I think, because I went back to that same environment that I was drinking in heavily. I knew I knew what I could do and get away with. Right.
Yeah.
So they did me a huge favor. The financial hole I got myself into is myself. It's my thing. That's the one thing alcoholics don't ever do is we don't take responsibility for our own actions. It's always somebody else's fault. Like when I was active drinking, I kept applying for check airman positions or IP positions. I never got it. And I was like, well, these guys just don't understand. They just don't get it. Why would they not want one of the best pilots they got being an IP or a check airman? Because you're a drunk ass. That's why. That's why. Because I was an alcoholic, and everybody knew I was a drinker. My FOs would go get extra. Would get extra stuff. It was like everybody else did in the company. Everybody drank some of the minis. They knew they had to watch me at night. They would get me to my room. It was just. That was not that part getting to the room and going out. Because the last couple of years, I might say about the last 3 years, I stopped going out with people when I was on the road because nobody drank like me. If I went out if you said, "Hey, Tony, David, we're going to go out and drink tonight," I would assume that you, Tony, are going to drink like I do. That you are going to have 4 minis in your room before we meet downstairs. That we're going to sit at the bar at the restaurant, so I don't have to wait on the waitress to come and get me a new beer. Mm-hmm. I can get the bartender to do it immediately. I thought, and after I realized that people didn't drink like I did, I stopped hanging out with people. I was a slam clicker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would just stay in my room, and I'd go out by myself and hope to God I could get back, or I didn't forget where I was or forget what room I was in. And I've been going down the hallway, putting a hotel key in the door until I found it.
Yeah, I did that when I'm sober. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
and we've all flown with that pilot that you meet him for the first time, you get out there, you go on a nice layover, and you're like, hey, let's go get some wings and a beer. Okay, sure. And next thing you know, you're like, I can't keep up with this guy.
Oh, I know.
So,
that was me. Yeah. And it's like,
yeah.
I had a guy. I've got a Hims tie tack pin on my tie that says Hims on it. Because a lot of people think the Hims guys are the no fun police. Oh, we can't talk about drinking around this, and that's where it comes back to the stigma of alcoholism, right? Of I can't come out as an alcoholic. People are going to shun me. I've had people. One of the guys was like, "Come on, you can come out." I said, "Well, I don't drink, guys, but I'll go have dinner with you, but I don't drink." And then we got there, and he's like, "Well, you can have one, can't you?"
Oh, geez.
And I didn't tell him I was in the Hims program yet. I said, "No, I can't have one." I said, I've never had one drink my entire life. And he was like, what? I said, think about that for a second. Oh, and he goes, oh, I said, yeah, there you go. He got it. He understood what I was talking about.
Yeah.
You know, and he goes, oh, are you in? I said, yeah, I'm in the HIMSS program. He's like, oh, okay. And then he went on and did his drinking, and which is fine with me. I don't care. But
Yeah.
the stigma of alcoholism and addiction itself is one of the real big problems that we have in the pilot community. Because if you get cancer, or God forbid somebody gets cancer that as a pilot, the companies, whatever you need, you go home, get better.
Right.
And they pour out emotions. You'll get cards from the company and everything else. But if you come out and say you're an alcoholic, that's not the case.
Right.
Yeah, liability now. Yeah.
You're a liability. And now I got to spend all this money on you to go out and get you sober. And unfortunately, the relapse rates, the success rates of the program is not that high, but the success rate of the HIMSS program is in the 90 percentile rate.
Really?
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
The success rate in the HIMSS program is 90-something% of success stories.
That's a testament to the program. That's a wonderful thing to hear.
It is. And I did forget to mention something else about the HIMSS program, about you said for life. Mm-hmm. You're under monitoring once you get your medical back. You have to do some random tests. I have to do 14 a year.
Okay.
Of when I'm home. When I'm off duty, I have to get tested. Mm. I have to see a shrink once a year. And I have to see my HIMSS AME twice a year.
Wow. Okay.
And I still have to go to aftercare once a month and go into the rooms on a regular basis, to have a good recovery program.
Okay.
Just stay it in there. So, and that lasts for as long as the FAA wants it to. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, but that can't be the reason you don't drink, is that you're getting tested or you have to go and see a shrink.
Right. That's
right?
beside the point. Yeah.
That's beside the point.
Yeah.
That's for the FAA to say, okay, we're putting these limitations on you, or these guidelines you have to follow to keep your medical.
That's their checklist.
So, yeah, exactly. That's their checklist.
Yeah.
So you don't have, it's just not a lifetime ban thing at all.
I see.
The hardest part about the HIMSS program, the absolute hardest part, is sticking your hand up in the air and saying, I need help.
Yeah.
As pilots, you and I, all three of us, think about that. If I say I need help because I can't control my drinking, how are they ever going to let me fly an airplane again?
Yeah.
I could fly a single engine ILS all day long with the autopilot off, with a Coke in my hand, and just smile at the FO. But all of a sudden, I need help because I can't put down this bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a stigma, and I think the stigma comes from just the ignorance of not knowing that this is a disease. Like we said on the onset of the show, it's a disease. And the more knowledge people have, maybe the better they can understand that it is manageable. It is not a career ender. And we are humans. We are people. Yes, we're pilots. We put wings on, and some of us wear the hat, some of us don't, but we all wear the uniform. And we have to get past that stigma and realize that there is help out there. There are programs with just tremendous success rates, as you're mentioning here. And, the HIMSS program is something that, you can Google it, but it's available at himsprogram.com. That's HIMS program.com. And that's a great resource to get started. And you probably have some other resources for us that you can mention. What can you say about that?
Well, there was some other resources I would reach out to if you know anybody that is in recovery of any aspect. You talk to somebody about their program. Mm-hmm. You don't have to reach out to your peers or your chief pilots. Reach out to the EAP, employee assistance. If you have any questions, because the big term is assessment, right? If you feel that you have a problem, and that's the only person that can finally admit that you have a problem is you, right? So there are numerous places. You can talk to your church. You can talk to, man, the HIMSS program is probably the best place to go through the union, through your union. If you have one, if you don't, call up, just get on there and the FAA can help. They can send you to somebody to talk to. It's all about networking. The thing is that you're not alone, and that's one reason I'm being so open with my discussions with my problem, how much I did drink and how bad it got for me. Is that you're not alone. I thought I was alone. I thought I was uniquely unique alcoholic, right? When I'm sitting in a room full of pilots at rehab, thinking, my God, you got F-14 guys sitting over here. You got 15-year captains at Legacy sitting here. I got an astronaut sitting over here.
Yeah.
Buzz Aldrin, I know he's out in public, so I'll say his name, is in recovery. I mean, he's the second man to walk on the moon.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You have to drop it. I spent years and years and years fighting the fact that I was an alcoholic. And I finally I finally had to stand up. I'm not tooting my own horn, but as a person that stuck his own hand up and said, I need help, is very rare. Mm-hmm. Most of the guys in the HIMSS programs get forced into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another thing we need to talk about too. The HIMSS program is not an ASAP program. I've heard a lot of guys say, well, if I get in trouble, I'll just tell them I want to enter the HIMSS program and I'll get off scot-free. No, you won't. If the FAA designed this program for you to step forward and say, help me, they want you to tell them that you're an alcoholic, so they'll get you out of the sky. Right? It's right. For the safety of the American airspace, right? The safety of the airspace above us. Mm-hmm. They want you. It's designed for you to self-disclose and come and seek help. If they have to come get you, their process of getting in your medical bag could be a little longer.
Yes, you mentioned depending on how you enter the program, you could be a matter of 8 months or 16 months or longer, or maybe never. So
maybe never.
Yeah. So, but I think what we're getting out of this is what I'm hearing is it's important to get in early and get the help before it gets out of hand, before you're forced into it, because that is just going to help you in your recovery and help you in the process to achieve the goals that you may want to achieve, like getting a medical back or getting back in the air.
Right. And now listen, guys, it may not save your career. You may never get back in the cockpit. Okay. It just could happen. Mm-hmm. You could, once you finally go to the doctor because your side was hurting, because you drank for 25, 30 years and you got cirrhosis of the liver, and you'll never get your medical back. But you'll be alive. Yeah. You can fix your liver. You can live a life. You can live a life, right? I don't care about you flying again. I want you not to die. I don't want anybody to die or suffer the horrific, hellish world of alcoholism. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But it makes you think. It's the only disease I know of that makes you think you don't have a disease. Because it makes you think it's fun. We're having a great time when we're not.
Yeah. And
I've been in that hell, and I just don't want anybody to go through it. And if they can help it, and I want to help. I just want somebody to be healthy and have success. If I can have success, if I can do it, good Lord, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
David, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your journey in aviation. I really do hope that this story will help someone out there, get the help they need on the pathway to recovery. And I think it will. I really, truly believe it will. Your story is amazing. I'd like to keep going here and ask you a couple more questions about your
go ahead.
journey.
I got plenty of time.
It seems almost kind of obvious, but what have been some of the biggest challenges in terms of your aviation career?
In regards to the HIMSS program, or
no, just in regards to your career in general? Was it that day that you realized that you needed help, or was it just something else along the way? Because from what we've heard, you've really had a pretty fantastic experience out there.
You know, I've always been, I don't want to sound cocky, but I'm a pilot, so I do have a big ego.
It's in your DNA. It's okay.
Good at this. Yeah. I've always been really good at, they like get in this airplane and fly it, and I can just do it. I've never been a good, my orals have always been worse than my flying. When I go to the check ride and fly, I can do all that really well, but I just got past the orals, sometimes, the biggest challenge in my career, was putting down that ego and saying I am not in control of this situation. I'm pretty sure in the aviation world of flying airplanes, I can control almost anything. All right, in the airplane, I can get in there, I can handle the situation unless it's just catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to drop that mentality. I had to say, I can't control this anymore. To say, I'm beat. You've beat me. I have to give up. That's the hardest part of my aviation career, saying, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
This, this whole party mentality, pilots are out there, we're partying hard and we're having a great time. And, we're hanging out with the 25-year-old flight attendants every night, and we're traveling the world and we're sitting on the beach and blah, 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 and I had that I had to drop that mentality. I had to drop that, the second biggest challenge was going to these training events that I just went through sober, of showing myself that it's not the alcohol that kept me up, that got I had gotten so alcoholism comes with a lot of anxiety. I had huge amounts of anxiety to where I was scared to fly airplanes. I would get nervous in airplanes.
Really?
Especially when I was riding in the back of the airliners, I would get anxiety attacks. And I'd never been scared to fly an airplane in my life, and I started getting these anxiety attacks a while back, and I couldn't explain it. So I thought, well, I just guess I need to drink some more. That's how it worked, and then I would calm down, and, I'd come home and I'd drink and I'd be fine. And I'd go to work. I'd be scared to death to go to work. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
So you had, I really had, but to come into these training events, and get the confidence that I could do it. Not the alcohol was propping me up with false confidence that I could do it. I was smart enough and good enough to do it. And I went and passed the 747 type rating.
Yeah. Wow.
And I passed my OE, and I went across the Pacific 3 times and landed an 800,000 pound, 600,000 pound airplane. And, the Czech airman didn't take the airplane away from me. I was, this is awesome,
Well, I was gonna say, you did well if you could figure out Boeing's VNAV in the first 60 days of flying it.
The FMAs, I'm still like, what is this? What does this mean?
Right?
I kind of hit vertical speed and just make it go away.
Hey, you're a success story already, because you got it all figured out.
Well, I know that the Felch button has saved me already a couple times.
Yeah.
So
flight level change. Yep.
It's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm not coming down very fast. I hell with it. Here, hit the Felch button. And the Czech airman was like, yeah, that's right. I'm like, but
so if we talked about your biggest challenge, it sounds like this point, having a successful IOE trip, landing a 600,000 pound aircraft, and retraining your ego to understand that it's not the alcohol that made you a good pilot, it's you that made you a good pilot. That's got to be the high point, right?
Well, no, it's not me. It's also my new found faith, right, in God.
Oh,
right?
Wonderful.
I wouldn't be, I didn't do any of this. I'm where I am because God put me here, right? he allowed me the confidence to get through that training. Right. It's not me. I didn't do it. And that's one big thing that I've accepted. And if somebody wants to think I'm some sort of religious crackpot, good. I don't care. You can think that all you want. But yeah, it's not me. God allowed me this opportunity to do it, and I took advantage of it.
And good for you.
And that's one reason it did. And I don't care if you're an atheist and you come into the program, you got to find something that has a more power than you do.
Yeah.
To help you. It could be, I don't care what it is. It could be your iPhone, for Christ. I don't care what it is. But because you can't do it. As an alcoholic, you can't do it. You have no control. Even though you think you do, you don't.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to realize. And what you said is retrain my ego. That's exactly a wonderful way to put it. That's exactly right. I had to retrain myself and also have the confidence in myself. Along yes, with this newfound help, instead of having a vodka to help me, I had a new spirituality to help me.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. I have a good friend of mine that's kind of going through this same kind of stuff you're just told us all. He's an alcoholic. He's an aviator. Divorced 3 times, and he's a really good guy, but man, everything you're talking about right now, I hear, from him. And, I'm going to mention it to him. Hey man, there's this great thing called the HIMSS program. Probably go, say hi to them. Cause I don't want him to, he's such a good guy at heart and everything, that I don't want to see him or anybody else, get in trouble or hurt themselves or.
Yeah. Timing is amazing, and I really think that the universe is speaking to all of us. And the fact that here we are having this opportunity, to speak with David today about his journey, the challenges he's had to handle and to get a hold of, this disease of alcoholism that is this taboo in the aviation community. We don't talk about it. Oh, I'll just go have a couple of beers. Oh, it's okay. But it's important, I think. And Rob, you've led me to this thought that we have to be here for each other. I end the show, every single show from episode 1 to now, with take care of each other. And I think it's so crucially important that we mention everybody probably that has been flying for a while, that is at this level in their careers, knows someone that is struggling, that maybe hasn't been through the program. And, David, you said it's up to you. No one can, flip that switch for you. You have to do it. You have to come to terms that it's time. And until you do that, unfortunately, it's just not going to work. But the fact that you had a friend that was there for you when you made that phone call is everything. And maybe you listening out there have a friend that is struggling, and all it takes is maybe a phone call or a text or just to say, hey man, I'm here. How's everything going? And if you need anything,
I'm here for you. The way I look at it is, number one, if you're their friend, what kind of a friend are you if you're not helping them? Especially in a situation like this. Number 2, dude, we got to share the same airspace with this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's another important thing. And, if they're working for the same company as you are, that's another potential, bad egg that can, ruin or tarnish the reputation of other pilots at your employer. So, and the list can go on and on and on, but, those are just some of the things that, I always think about. Number one, just, if you're a friend, I would want somebody to tell me, hey, look, Rob, I got this great friend who works at this place and we should go talk to him. If I had a problem, that would be, but, obviously I'm not in that boat. So At least I don't think I am. I don't drink. But last time I had a drink was like 3 weeks ago, and it was a 1 beer. And
I'm a one and done myself too.
I was
I don't
2
like
sheets into the wind.
I'm a cheap date.
That's the difference between the alcoholics. Like when they asked me at rehab when I checked in, they said, "Oh, David, how much do you drink?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, when you sit down to drink, how much do you drink?" I said, "All of it."
Right.
Yeah.
And it was not. She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, whatever amount of alcohol you put in front of me is what I would."
Sure. Yeah, that's serious. Yeah, you're serious.
But from an alcoholic's perspective, now when it comes to friends, here's what an alcoholic will do to you. If you go to your buddy you're talking about earlier that you thought, he is an alcoholic, 3 marriages and so forth. If you go sit down and talk to him and say, "Hey, I think you have an issue. You have a problem." He's not going to, he's going to say, "Okay, see you later. Thanks for your help." And he's not going to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
He's going to, because now you are getting in the way of his drinking. He's not going to be your buddy anymore. He won't be. I wouldn't be your friend. I did that to numerous friends. "Okay, really? See you later." I stopped hanging out with
your
them.
son and everything. Yeah.
Right.
It's got to be on your own accord.
Yeah. Right. Now, let me ask you guys a question. You sit down in the cockpit with a guy and he smells like alcohol. What do you say to him?
"You're looking a little sick today.
But
you want to call in sick?"
I would. First thing I'd say is it's time for us to have a talk. I need to talk to you out on the jet bridge or out on the ramp. Let's go. So you're outside of the cockpit. Number one.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, "Look, man, I can smell you. If I can smell you, it clearly
how'd you get down here?
It's time. It's time. You either go home sick right now and get help. If you want help, I'll make a phone call. But you're not flying with me, and not today.
Yeah.
Get the help."
Right.
It's a good one.
Because you can't go along with it because your life is at risk, not to mention all the other responsibilities, the mountain of responsibilities that go along with it. But you also don't want to ignore it or tell them, "Call in sick, go home," because you're not helping. You're just you're covering it up. You're putting a Band-Aid on a problem.
You're an enabler. Yeah. Now you're an enabler.
Yeah. So you need to kind of put your foot down. Now, if they tell you to go F yourself, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Then gets to the point where it's an avalanche of problems.
I got a true story about that almost very similar situation. Actually, my buddy that we're talking about was working a trip. This is when he was with Sandpiper and went through TSA and got all the way to the gate. And one of the TSA agents said they smelt alcohol in his breath. So anyway, they got all the way to the cockpit, did the pre-flight and everything. And somehow the TSA notified the company. The company came down the jet bridge and he was like, "I want a piss test right now." They confronted him. He's like, "I want a piss test right now." And he's telling me this story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly my fear from my buddy is something like this happening. There's worst case scenarios, but he was telling me, he's like, "Dude, I haven't had a drink in 4 days because I've been on this, 6-day trip and everything and been working my butt off." And, in my heart, I believed him. Luckily he did get, a blood and alcohol test right away and didn't have anything in his system. So, it was good to hear that he wasn't lying and all that stuff. But, he was removed from flight without pay until pending the further investigation. Mm-hmm. And when everything came back, he was reinstated and everything like that. But, oh my gosh, just to have to go through all that and hear about it, I was like, ugh. So, man,
that's
real world.
That's a situation that the pilots that we have as a pilot group, pilots have failed at, is that we tend to cover our bases, cover our friends' bases. Yeah. Hey, man, you just sit over there and do your job. I'll do everything. You just sit there.
I've seen that before.
Just hey, man, just come on
too.
Just chill out. We'll get you through this. many bad decisions have been made, and in the name of brotherhood, of camaraderie. I don't want to rock the boat.
Sure.
The reason I asked that question about what would you guys say is, there's all types of ways to say, look, you can, the HIMSS program, you either you make a sick call and you call the HIMSS, you can't, because we can't assess anybody, right?
Right.
An assessment, how do you talk to somebody about getting assessed, right?
Sure.
How do you say, hey, in the airline industry, we may never see the guy for 6 months, a year. Never again will we fly with this guy.
Yeah. Right.
It's very hard to assess if somebody has an issue as a non-professional. So getting somebody to get assessed by a professional if they have an addiction problem, it's a hard road to go down. If you think about it.
Yeah.
The thing with your friend about, I want the P test right now. I want a breathalyzer right now. Or, what happens when he blows it? What if they blow it 0.03, or whatever it is, a 0.04, right. I'm sorry, 4.1. What if that guy really, really does smell like alcohol bad?
Yeah.
And he tells you to F off. Well, now, when that happens, that's when you have to it could be your best friend that tells you to screw off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you have to say, okay, well, I'm calling. Look, either you call the chief pilot or calling sick, or I'm calling the chief pilot and saying you're drunk.
Right. I think the hardest scenario is when you don't know the person. You're meeting them for the first time. You get to the cockpit. You're like, "Hello, captain," or "Hello, first officer," and you introduce yourself.
Yeah,
and now you're like, this guy kind of smells like alcohol. How do you approach that? It could have been Listerine for all we know. We don't know. That's what the scary part of it is how do you sit there and tell your peers to say, hey, this is a problem in our industry. This industry is prone to alcoholism and addiction. It is. It's just a known simple fact that this industry is prone to that. Yeah.
But how do we in the cockpit successfully navigate a situation that you're speaking of? I don't know you from Adam.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a slight speech impediment or something, or you have a immature trachea that you were born with, that you just talk funny.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Right.
That's one of the hardest problems with this thing, is that's why most pilots end up getting put in involuntarily into the HIMSS program.
Yeah.
Because they get away with it. So, that tire just didn't blow on that leg. It blew on the leg you didn't drink that night. And that reinforces the fact that, hey, I can get away with this.
It's that hazardous attitude, right? It's that invincible,
Yeah, it's the normalization of deviation. Yeah, of deviance. No, the normalization of deviance.
Normalization of deviance. Yeah, you've done it. I do it my way 20, 30 times. It works out just fine. But on that 40th time, you might end in a disastrous result, or getting in a situation where now you are responsible for your actions. So, that's why it's so hard, guys. It's so hard to counsel people or talk to somebody about about this. How do you do that? You're sitting there with 300 people behind you, 200 people, and you're up there looking at the guy thinking, what do I do? What call do I make?
Yeah.
You talk about a challenge, and I've never been in that position. I hope I'm never in that position. That's just one of the hardest things we have to think about as pilots, as professionals.
Yeah.
Here
you are. You've had this tremendous career, very inspiring, if you ask me, that you've been able to overcome some major challenges, and here you are, keeping up with a very successful career at a position in a job that I'm sure has got to be one of the highlights, flying that beautiful whale across, the oceans out there. And so what's better now that you've experienced both, flying people or flying boxes?
I would have to say that those 20 years of flying people in the fractional industry was an amazing, because we had such a unique opportunity to be so intermingled with our passengers. We worked hand in hand with our passengers. And some of them were famous people, and some of them were just rich, had enough money to do it. And some of them were what I call new money. They just got it, and they're all happy and giddy, and it's this amazing thing, and it was great. And flying freight before, now flying freight again, but flying freight in this capacity of seeing how much they can keep stuffing in that well and filling it up.
How many iPhones they can get in there? It's amazing, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. How many pallets of lithium batteries am I carrying underneath me?
That's scary. That's scary.
Boxes and boxes of ammunition and missiles.
Hoorah!
I mean, it's just, I would say pastors, man. I enjoyed my time at the fractional of working there because it was myself, a first officer in an airplane, and 8 to 10 days of doing missions, and we never knew what we were going to do. And everything that happened is a fluid, dynamic, ever-changing environment that required out of the box thinking to accomplish well. And I like that. That was fun. Now, I don't miss changing, doing the labs and throwing the bags and getting the catering and having to deal with sometimes with the 1% people that were just, you wanted to strangle.
Yeah.
You just wanted to.
I've heard those stories. Our own Captain Roger has told me a few tales. Oh, I hate this ice. This is the crappy ice. I wanted the good ice.
Oh, I know. And then,
stinky ice. I
had somebody throwing lemon at me because it was cut wrong.
Oh, God.
And why is my car not pulled up to the airplane? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm still driving the airplane.
It's just, but to find the cargo now in this new job and learning all the new stuff I have to learn, especially the international flying over the, talking to the Russians and the Chinese and the South Koreans and the Japanese and that stuff is just, it blows your mind the first time you're there.
Yeah.
But it's so, but I would have to pick, that's not even my favorite job. You want to know what my favorite job I've ever had is?
For sure.
What's that?
Ever had. My favorite is that when I was in high school and in college, I was a whitewater river guide on the Ocoee River. Cool. I started when I was a kid. I was about 16, 17 years old, guiding the Ocoee. That was the best job I ever had. I loved that job. And that job got me prepared to be a professional pilot.
How so?
Because I had a new group of paddlers in my boat every time. So you didn't know what you were going to get, right? If they could paddle, if they couldn't paddle, if they were going to freak out, or if they, what was going to happen. The river changed every time you went down it, right? You had less water, more water. You had more rafts. It was just a challenging environment that could hurt you if you didn't do it right.
Yeah.
So I think that really got me ready to be a professional pilot. And I've said that at an interview, multiple interviews, when that's my favorite job. I love that job.
Wow.
And flying airplanes is my passion, and I love it. But that job was so fun. And plus, it kept you in shape. Now I'm fat and old. Back then, I was great.
Well, we've talked about your favorite job. What about your favorite airplane?
Yeah, my favorite airplane is a 1927 Fairchild 71.
Oh, Fairchild.
Yeah, it's a.
I don't even know what that is. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look,
gorgeous.
Go to Google and look and put in Fairchild 71, and you'll see a blue and white one with Pan Am on it. Mm-hmm. And it's 50-foot wingspan, 36 feet long, 600 horsepower radial on it. And it was one of the airlines. It was delivered to Pan Am Airlines back in 1927. And I get to fly that airplane. I got to fly it around. It's not flying right now, but I got to fly. That's my favorite airplane I've ever flown.
Yeah, I think I have a model that I haven't even put together yet. I'm saving it for retirement. I've got models of airplanes, Well,
you have to look it up. Yeah, if you look up Fairchild 71, it's I can send you some pictures of it. It was on a couple magazine covers. We took it to Oshkosh and Sun and Fun.
Yeah. Well, the question is, the one that you fly, is it on floats, or do you have?
I see it here.
No, the one on floats is called that's the Super Fairchild. That's a different one. They had put the 71 on floats before. They ended up being a lot of yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there you go.
A lot of glare in that picture there, but yeah, I just found it.
Yeah,
It's super nice. Wow. Big radial engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, those radial engines are wonderful to sit behind, man. They're great.
When you look at old black and white movies, that's the original airlines. That's
that's what that is.
Yeah.
This airplane.
Isn't that
it actually went to
the Casablanca airplane? Isn't it?
Is that I don't remember. I don't think so. No, that was a multi. I think that was an Electra.
Ah. Oh, I think it was Electra. Yeah,
Electra.
That airplane actually went down to South America for Pan American Airlines to do some proving runs in South America when Juan Trippe ran Pan Am.
Oh, a lot of history.
Yeah, it's a lot of history. It's great, but that's my But my favorite jet though is the 7.4. So
yeah,
I've only got 50. I've only got 50 hours in it, but that's a remarkable machine.
Yeah.
Did you like the Phenom?
I didn't like how small the cockpit was. I'm 6'3".
Yeah.
So, but it's an amazing performer, and it exceeded its numbers. It had wonderful baggage capacity, and the passengers loved it.
Yeah, but the 7.4, huh? That's your favorite.
Oh my God, I cannot begin to explain. Even though I'm just scratching the surface of my experience in that airplane.
Yeah.
I mean, we flew from Cincinnati to Incheon and didn't even top it off.
Wow.
Couldn't even imagine. Wow.
I've never flown, as a pilot for a 7.4. Unfortunately, it just was not in the cards for my career. I did sit as a passenger as a young child many, many times. Every summer I'd go to Italy to go and spend time with grandma and grandpa, and I've spent many times in the back of a 747. But my highlight was United before they got rid of their 7.4s. I actually got to sit in the jump seat commuting home from Chicago to San Francisco in a 747. Wow. And what amazed me was how quiet that cockpit is. And yes, you're high up. It's like you're in a third floor of a building when you're looking down.
Taxiing like 75 feet or something like that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's 4 stories.
4 stories.
Wow.
But what was amazing was when it was time for takeoff, set thrust, and I'm looking at the engine instruments like, are they spooling up? It's so quiet.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah. With me, when I first flew it, I was sitting there in the right seat for the observation. When I was doing PM stuff on the very first leg, you're busy, so you're not really paying attention there. You're trying to keep up.
Yeah.
But when I first flew it, and the captain did the power, pushed it up, and hit the auto throttle buttons, and I could feel it moving, and I could hear the motors. But he said 80 knots, and I looked outside. I'm like, we're not moving.
That's so big, yeah.
That's what she said.
And he goes, look out the right way. Look out your window real quick. And I looked out the window, and the hangars are just flying by. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
your reference for speed is different because they're so high up.
It is. It was amazing, and I rotated and did and then it was like, okay.
Wow.
It works the same. It's just a jet. It's just an airplane.
It handles amazing. When we were coming in for a landing in San Francisco, it was, the pilots were kind enough to kind of talk me through kind of what they were doing when they could. And what I did notice is on finals, they were handling that bird and it was so responsive. It was like flying a 172.
Oh, it handles so well. I tell you, I had to do a VOR approach with a side step to a runway at Osan, South Korea. And we broke out and it's time to scoot over to the other runway. And it did it like a 1 second. I just turned the yoke a little bit and it just whoop, right over there. Like it was nothing.
That's so cool.
But it was, but it's just, it's just a remarkable thing. And it's amazing that, I'm here doing it.
Yeah.
I should be dead. I should be dead.
Yeah.
For the copious amounts of alcohol I put in my system over all those years, and it's an amazing thing. It's wonderful to talk about these airplanes, and it's wonderful to say, I should, I'm lucky to be here but I'm sober. And that's the number one fact about it, is that I have to think if I was to go out and have one drink, one beer, which I could never do because I could never have one, but I would be back in rehab and I'd have to start this process all over again.
Yeah.
If I wanted to continue to fly, and the thing is, I don't know if I have another recovery in me. I know I have a lot of drunks left in me. I don't know if I have any recoveries left, enough strength to get through that.
Yeah.
And you have to put that in perspective. As an alcoholic, I have to put that in perspective that nothing is worth being drunk over again, because
You worked so hard to get here.
Yeah.
right. People ask me a lot. Well, do you miss? Well, don't you miss drinking? Don't you crave it? It's like alcoholics walk around, drilling at the mouth for alcohol. I'm sure some people do. Maybe I'm lucky enough not to. But when it comes to alcohol, I miss it kind of like you would miss an old girlfriend. It was really hot.
Yeah.
But she turned out to be psycho and wanted to kill you slowly.
Wow.
That's alcohol to me, is that she may be fun for the first 10 minutes, but after the rest of your life, she's going to kill you slowly.
Well, here I am thinking, I'm listening to your story, and now you're flying the 747 across the world. Here Tony and I only fly across the country, or Tony, you go out to Hawaii and stuff. But I'm thinking your new drink of love is probably coffee now. Well, you probably drink a lot of coffee, but coffee, you probably need a lot of coffee to keep you going now.
Yeah. I've never been a big coffee guy. I'm still not.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will be soon.
Yeah. My caffeine's Diet Coke.
There you go.
Diet Coke
It's your caffeine
when
fix.
when I'm in Miami, I'll get Cuban coffee in Miami.
Oh, there
Great.
you go. Yep.
What's that? What's that one that?
Café con leche?
Café con leche.
Cortajitos?
Cortitos. Yeah.
Yeah, those
Cortitos.
Little espresso.
those are awesome, but
I actually
Yeah,
have a problem. I'm here to tell you that I do have a problem. I think I have about 20 different espresso makers, machines.
Yeah.
I have a collection. I'm
do
a
you have
coffee
collection of
guy.
machines?
He's a coffeeholic.
I'm a coffee. I am. I don't want to make light. That's not what I'm saying. But just in this, I do have a coffee problem, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not drinking any coffee right now because it's kind of late in the evening. But I'm down to like 1.5 pots a day.
Yeah.
Of coffee.
Yeah, that's your social drinking is coffee.
Really? I could. Oh.
Yeah.
I am Italian. I gotta have my espresso and coffee, my good
Cappuccino,
French
that's
roast. Cappuccino. That's in the morning after 10 a.m. Only Americans drink cappuccino
Espresso.
after 10 a.m.
Well, then you gotta get to an antipasti platter to have with your coffee and all your cheese and wine and cheese and crackers.
I like my biscotti when I dip it in the coffee. It gets nice and soft, and oh my god.
Melts in your mouth.
That's way beyond me. I'm a coffee rookie. I still can't get into the coffee that much, but
Yeah.
but when it comes, the one thing that we have to think about too. I just thought of this. If it has anything to do with, is that as we talk to the younger generations that come up as pilots, the guys that are CFIs right now, guys and girls that are CFIs right now, are looking into staying in this industry, and even during this downturn, because people tend to get stuck in this industry. They just can't leave it when they get into it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the paths that we've went down, not all these paths lead to my situation, right? Not all these paths lead. Aviation was not the reason I was drinking. Okay.
Right.
It can be stressful and away from home, boredom, like that can leads to drinking and partying, but it does not mean that you're conducive to being an alcoholic. It's not going to turn you into one of these things,
Right.
but it turned into what I am as an alcoholic. But you can still enjoy it as normal people, normal drinkers can still enjoy this career and still do it safely and professionally. But don't get caught up into the aura of the pilots that we have to party our butts off, and that's how we roll, right?
So your last comment right there just sparked a question in my mind. Do you think that's I wouldn't say a generational thing, but do you think that that's something that just comes with the aura of being a pilot? Because
my example is like back in like Vietnam, there was a lot of people always smoking cigarettes when you're in the military, and that was that was the image of a tough guy.
Right.
So,
Right.
do you think the drink is the image of, here I am, I fly heavy metal, and I'm a pilot, and I'm
Yes, I
gonna
do.
have a drink.
Yeah. I think it is, because some of the heroes of aviation that have been, brought up in our lives, like Pappy Boyington, right?
Yeah.
Had a was an alcoholic, and he flew combat intoxicated. He had whiskey in his airplane.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a man's man, right?
Yeah.
The movie The Right Stuff, all the pilots are at the bars getting all crazy all the time, right?
Yeah.
Chuck Yeager asked him, "You want a shot of whiskey?" And then you show like a Chuck Yeager in that same movie who broke his ribs, shouldn't have been flying airplanes, but he got away with it.
Yeah.
Right? As you go on, and you think about the stories from the Pan Am Clippers and all the pilots back then and what they used to go through, and and the party hard charging fighter pilots from Vietnam, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. I think it is. I think that drinking and partying is attached to our profession.
Yeah.
Because I know military has kind of gotten away from the celebration with drinks of a pilot, because they used to have, I used to be in the military fighter squadrons. Every fighter squadron, or every squadron that I know of, had an in-house bar in their operation center, and all the pilots, I'd say all of them, most of the pilots would, after 4 or 5 o'clock, after the mission was over, that's where they're hanging out.
You got to partake and get into that camaraderie.
That's the social, exactly.
That was their CRM.
You're couldn't be more far from the correct from being right. That's kind of how it was, or that's kind of how it was for a long time.
There was a lot of pressure too. Come drink with us. What's wrong with you? Right?
Exactly.
How many times have you heard
that?
How
you made your way up the some of the the echelons of the rank system was just because of your the way you bond with people, and a lot of stories that they tell was over hey, remember, like you said, David, earlier, so one of your stories, you said, hey, remember when this happened, and everybody laughed about it, but that's seriously, it's part of the whole stigma of being a pilot, and that's what kind of worries me.
Well, you remember the red flags videos you used to play on? This is all the incidents on Sunday or Monday morning flights at Red Flag when they may be in Vegas all weekend, and then go out and run an F-16 through some trees on a ridge.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
That video.
Yep.
No reason to hit it, but they did.
Right. So it's a stigmatism. Yes, you're right. It is attached to our industry.
Yeah.
Now, of course we can go out and have fun. Of course you can have your fun. But what I'm trying to get across to anybody that's listening is that when it becomes no fun anymore, but you pretend it is, and you have told yourself you want to stop over and over and over again, but you cannot physically stop drinking, that's who I'm talking to. Yeah. I'm not talking to the guys that can go out like you guys and have one or two drinks and go back to your room and go to sleep. That's wonderful. I hung out with guys all last month doing just that.
Yeah.
When I was in training for almost 2.5, 3 months, I was with guys drinking every single day. All right, as we were studying, and after we were done studying and I was driving to Top Golf and back so we could take a break. And let them,
Top Golf.
Yeah. Which is a crazy thing. Top Golf. I hate golf, but that was actually kind of fun. That's what we have to get down to is okay. 99% of the guys and girls we fly with can handle it with their alcohol. I'm talking to that 1% that might need help. Yeah. That might need to hear the fact that they are not alone.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to stress too, I want you to do this, is that anybody listens to this that needs to talk to somebody, reach out to these guys. They have my email address and my cell phone number. I'm going to give them permission to give it out. if you need help and you don't have anybody else to talk to, you call or text me, and I'll talk to you anytime you need me to.
Oh, excellent.
Wonderful.
Thank you for
Answer
doing that. Yeah.
any question.
Anyone listening that is struggling and has decided that it is time to ask for help, you can do so. David has very graciously offered to have his contact information out there. So the way we're going to do that is just send us an email here at the show. You can do that from the website at aviatortony.com or at aviatortony@gmail.com. Send me an email directly and tell me what's going on. If there's any way we can help, I will put you in contact with David and we will find you help. Because if you're listening to this story, you know that there's hope. There's always hope. And there are people out there that are going through the same kind of struggles that you may be going through and that are willing to help.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And if you're out there in that haze of depression, anxiety, you just can't seem to wrap your hands around it. You don't know why. You can't. And for some reason, you just cannot put that drink down. You can't stop. And you just don't know what's happening. And you need somebody to talk to. Like I said, reach out to your HIMSS guys. Reach out to, like I said, to me. I'll talk to you every day, all day if I have to. Reach out to somebody that you trust and talk to them, because you're not alone. You're not the only one going through this. And you'll be very surprised of the people that will stick their hands up and help you. Your people will help you. Yeah.
Well said.
I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Final couple questions before we wrap it up today. As you know, listening to the show, I like to ask a couple questions towards the tail end of the interview. And the ones I wanted to ask you, who is it that has had the biggest impact on your career and why?
Boy, that is a good question. The biggest impact on my career.
This one gets everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know. Okay. The gentleman's name, I'm going to say his name. His name is Mark Imfeld. He was he's retired now, but he was a corporate pilot that worked with me in Cincinnati. I came up to that job as a rough freight dog. I've been flying, those Lear 25s and Falcon 20s. And now I've got this beautiful hangar with these 3 beautiful Hawkers going to these, having to wear a tie and, and shave. What are you talking about? And, and he molded me and to be, that getting it, I thought this is enough ice or that coffee is warm enough. No, it wasn't. This is what you have to do if you want to be a professional pilot. And he showed me, and he was, and we melded together so well because he was an old tailwheel guy too. And we flew tailwheel together when I was up there in Cincinnati and some places he knew. He taught me a lot, and he taught me not only how to be a better pilot, but he taught me how to be a professional and every aspect of it from the moment you show up to the moment you walk away from the airplane.
Yeah. It's amazing to hear these the people that help us along the way. And, thank you for sharing that with us. I never get tired of hearing these wonderful, unique stories of the influences that we have. And it's like we mentioned earlier in the show as well, is that there's so many people that have helped guide you on your path, on your journey. And that's wonderful that you were willing to share that with us. Thank you. David, if you lost your ability to fly tomorrow for whatever reason, what would you do?
I would go get a law degree, and I would be an aviation attorney.
Oh,
wow.
Well,
that's awesome.
if you decide to go and get a law degree while you're still flying, and become an aviation attorney so that maybe in retirement you're ready to go, I applaud you for that, because we need all the representation we can get, especially now in 2020 with all of this that's going on.
Well, actually, that was one of the things during my alcoholism, before I decided to get help, I decided that if they wouldn't let me fly and drink, I was going to quit flying and go be a lawyer. because
Nice.
everybody wants to hire a drunk lawyer, right? I mean, you saw it on movies all over the place.
The old Perry Mason.
So why not? Yeah, that's another thing that alcohol does to you. Well, just to wrap it up real quick, is one thing about the alcoholic brain, right? Is that you think that if you change jobs, you'll be okay. I'll quit drinking. If I change states, I'll quit drinking because I'll leave the problems behind me. It's called a geographical cure.
Yeah.
Or an employment cure. One of the things I've heard from in the rooms is that every state sign in America should have a little sign underneath it that says, "This one doesn't work either."
That's funny.
That's something that people think about is that. Yeah, but if I could be a lawyer, I would like to get there. I actually thought about doing some night school. Now that I got some more time and a little bit longer layovers, I might actually do that. But I gotta get through the LSAT first. I heard the LSAT was pretty tough. So.
Yeah.
Well, you did this program, so I think you'll do just fine with the LSAT.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
See.
So my question is, I heard you mention, and I hope you don't get too offended if I say it, but you're about the same age as I am. You said 48, and
Yes,
you've been doing this for a long time, flying.
Yes,
Where
sir.
do you see yourself in 16 years or so? That'd put you around 65, wouldn't it? 15, 16 years.
60, yeah, 65. Yeah, 17 years from now, 16 years. Where I'm going to start a small flight school and do it with tailwheel airplanes. Do tailwheel endorsement, spin training, unusual attitude recovery, and then I'm going to go out and get a steerman. I'm going to have a super decathlon and then try to get a steerman, and do kind of like that nostalgic kind of check out where you come out and fly a World War II airplane, and then I have a flight school that teaches aviation from the basics, from gliders to tailwheel to antique airplanes, and really how to get into the minutia of aviation, how to get out there and get your hands dirty, not just walk out and do a pre-flight and go fly a VOR approach you've flown 15 times to get an instrument ready.
Right.
To get back into aviation as an art form and not just a mechanical, power goes here, stick goes there, airplane does this, is to learn how to fly, how to feel the air, feel the wind in the glider's wings, and understand what your rudders do. I mean, come on.
I think
Rudders,
I just thought of your flight school's name. Evolution Training Center or Evolution Training School.
that's pretty catchy.
I don't know.
I like that.
You said a couple words there, and I don't know, it buzzed.
I just that's what I want to do. I'm going to try to get that off the ground because at an airport south of here in Tullahoma, Tennessee, it's THA is an airport. We have two runways. We have two grass runways. They're north, south, east, and west. So you can practice on the grass. You can practice on the pavement. You can do it all right there. And it's in the middle of Tennessee, so it's right in the middle of out in this area. I think general aviation needs that kind of thing. We need real pilots, and not that we're not pilots, but people that can fly an airplane.
Well, the basic principles of flight. I mean, we teach it
where the fun is.
We skim over it, and we immediately put these, especially now, they're in a Cessna 172 SP with a G1000 in it, and you ask them to shoot an ADF or an NDB approach, and they're like, "What? We don't do those."
What?
Yeah.
Nobody does those anymore.
I'm so far removed from flight training and general aviation altogether, but it just seems, in my mind, perception-wise, coming from where we were, Tony, back before we got hired at Sandpiper, just seems like most of the flight schools these days are just geared towards, the professional pilot.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Pilot
you
factory.
can go out and get I'm sure you can go out and just get a private instrument and all that stuff, but it just, it just seems that there's so many schools out there, just that's all they're pushing. Maybe that's where the money is. I don't know, but you don't hear of things like you're talking about, David. At least in my area, you don't hear too much about just, hey, let's have fun. Let's fly these cool airplanes, these basic airplanes. This is how, Lindbergh did it. This is how Earhart did it.
Open
let's go
cockpits
out.
and
Yeah,
biplanes.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well, right
got
before I
such an
went to-
allure to it.
It is. People miss out. Like right before I went to 7-4 school, I took a J3 Cub from Tullahoma, Tennessee to California. All
Wow.
right.
Oh,
6 days of flying, with I got no electrical system, no radios, and no starter. I had to hand prop the airplane.
Holy mackerel.
30 hours of flying across the United States at 500 feet AGL. Didn't talk to anybody on the radio because I didn't have one.
wow.
And I'm just cruising over the desert at 10 feet off the ground for hours, 2 hours.
Wow.
And I'm just sitting there. It was one of the most spiritual things I've ever witnessed. It was so fun. A couple of times I got the crap kicked out of me for the turbulence, but still. And that wasn't any fun. But, flying across the mountains in a J3, how many people get to do that? And I want people to be able to get out and do that and get back into aviation, because at most of these big flight schools, like you said, they are pilot factories.
Yeah.
Like you can't go out if you went to a lot of these schools and got at colleges. You can't go rent the airplane and just go take your girlfriend to a fly-in, down somewhere and go have lunch. You can't do that. They won't let you do it.
Yeah.
We're taking fun out of what we do.
Flying. Yeah.
We've all been in it so long that we know we're like, okay, great, another sunset. And we tend to overlook the awesome stuff we get to see every day when we go fly.
Yeah. Don't forget to look out the window, huh?
Or all the fun we had that got us up to this point. For me, some of my most fun was the flight training days. That the first time when your instructor said, "Hey, we're going to go out and do some stalls," you're like,
what?
Can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Steep turns, sweet. Or ground reference maneuvers, rock on.
Yeah, of course.
What are you talking about? I do those all the time in the Airbus. I do turns around a point.
Yeah.
A little high on final?
We do.
Hey, just do it 360. Okay, it turns around a point.
Exactly.
Go out and do loops and rolls and Shondales and stalls and stuff.
Yeah, the passengers love it.
Power off 180s and super awesome.
Actually go out there and fly an airplane to the edge of its performance. And, and how many times do we actually do that?
Yeah.
You got to take a 7.3 or a 7.4 out to its very edge so you don't die.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
I'm not saying that, so we have to, I just want to see, I would love to see people get back into the fun of aviation. It's like, that's why I missed the air shows this year. The air shows didn't happen this year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But when you go to, I think going to Oshkosh should be a prerequisite for an ATP. You should go up there and at least see aviation.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
You have to go to Oshkosh one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember flying Chicago over to, I don't know if it was over to Madison or Rochester or something. And, regional airline flying for Sandpiper on a regular flight. And they stopped our descent. They told us to maintain whatever it was, 9,000 feet. And they said, caution, flight of 22. A couple thousand feet below you. I went, I'm sorry, what? 22. Yeah, 22 Bonanzas are going to be flying under you now. I'm like, what? Speed our discretion. So we slow down to the slowest speed possible. I'm looking out of my window. The FO's looking out of his window. And we're like, where? And we saw him. Sure enough, 22 in formation, straight line, right across.
Unbelievable.
Going to Oshkosh. And I thought, oh my God, do I want to be there right now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun when you go into Oshkosh, but it's just the thing is, I like to talk about airplanes. Like a guy's like, what do you do when you go home? I was like, well, I go tow gliders, or I'll go fly this airplane, or I'll go do this. And they're like, I don't want to touch airplanes when I'm home. I'm like, well, okay.
Whatever.
I'm sorry. That's my thing. Great. But I just, I want people to do it. My son likes to go to the glider place with me and hook up the gliders and tow the gliders with the golf cart, and hopefully he'll get into that. My daughter, I want her to do the same thing if she wants to. If she doesn't, that's fine. But I love aviation. I love it, and I've been lucky enough to be given a new way to look at it, at life, and look at the aviation. And like when I was flying over the South Pacific, other night, we flew over Iwo Jima, going from Guam into Japan.
Ooh,
Cool.
Yeah, historic place.
And
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm a big historian. I like history. I read a lot of history, and I was like, man, look at that. There's Mount Suribachi. You can see you can see it just plain as day. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Wow.
And the captain was like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, that's Iwo Jima, dude. He's like, okay. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Man,
Okay.
I'll just talk about,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
let me show you a picture of my Corvette. Hold on.
Yeah.
here's my second boat I just bought,
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
he's like,
If
do you have boats?
yeah.
No, I hate
If
boats.
Japan had it their way, you'd be driving a Honda. So
Yeah.
if it wasn't because of Iwo Jima,
Yeah.
Right. It's just, I like it. I'd love it. And I'm just so glad that God gave me this opportunity to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to waste this one. So I want to give back. And what you said, where I would be in 16 years is I want to still want to be giving back to aviation, because I'm thinking about too, maybe getting into the training department and doing some, sim training, or maybe doing something like that. And I think that would be something I could do, maybe. But I want to be able to give back to aviation, and I think we all deserve it. Thinking back, I think the aviation deserves it from us to give back as much as we can in our careers.
Oh, I couldn't have said that
Well
better
said.
myself. That is amazing. And
Yep.
let me tell you, David, you have been giving back. The fact that you're on the show with us, hopefully reaching out to a growing audience that loves to share the journeys that we've been sharing here with them about aviation, about the struggles in aviation, about the challenges and the hurdles that we have to overcome as aviators in this industry, and the pleasure and the joy and the passion that also comes from this wonderful career. I thank you for sharing your story with us, and hopefully, we will have made a difference in someone's life out there, and it'll all be worth it.
Can I take a second to thank somebody real quick? Some people real
Absolutely.
fast?
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to my old company, the fractional company, for what they did for me. And I also want to say thank you to my current company for giving me the opportunity of taking a chance on me. Of course, my family and all of my friends that helped me out there. That if they happen to listen to this, or any of my friends, or thank you all very much. I could not have done it without you guys. And I wanted to say I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And thank you for sharing your story, for having the courage to come on, to come out here and give us a taste of what you've gone through. I wish you all the best. I have a feeling that we're going to see some great things from you with this idea that you have for possibly starting up a company of flight training and vintage aircraft. That's wonderful to hear. I'd love to be there for that. So let me know how that turns out. The fact that you're here with us. Yeah, the fact that you're here with us today, talking about this, having this future ideas about where you're going to be in 10, 15, or 16, 17 years is wonderful. And thank God that you're here to share it with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Well, do you enjoy Squawk Ident podcast? I hope you do. We all do. And if you do, we encourage you to visit our website at aviatortony.com. On the homepage, you can find methods to contribute to our show by becoming a producer and help us with production expenses. You can also leave us audio feedback, show topics that you would like to hear from us or that you'd like to have us cover, and you can also view some of the many photos that we've shared from the flight line. Under the guest book tab, you can view some of the photos that our featured guests have shared with us as well. Facebook and Instagram users can find us under the Squawk Ident podcast, and YouTube and Twitter users can find us under Aviator Tony and Squawk Ident. We encourage you to support us on the YouTube channel with a like, a subscribe, and a share. And don't forget to select the little bell to be notified on any new videos. Well, in closing, I would just like to say thank you so very much for taking the time to listen to these grateful aviators. Keep the dirty side down out there, be safe, and take care of each other. See you later, guys.
See you later, guys. David, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.